hello, those of you that are joining me right now. Come and say hello in the comments. Happy Monday morning. Just give it a minute or so for people to sign in. Come and join us. And if you can start thinking about that question there on the board, on the screen there. Have a look at the image on the right and have a think about, or even write down, what does that image make you think about? How does it make you feel? And do you have any questions about that image? Hello, Elise. Thank you. Welcome. If it's your first time joining me here, please let me know. If you joined me before, let me know. Got my daughter with me this morning. She's not going to come on camera, but she's going to join in the lesson with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Ruby. Recognising some familiar names popping up here. Yes, I recognised the name on the Facebook account there, Ruby. I know you've been here before. Fantastic. Thank you for joining me again. Again, I don't know why I said it like I was Australian. Hello, Isaiah. Sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly there. Hello, Mia and Noah. Hi, Grace. Oh, I'm recognising some more Facebook accounts here. Fantastic. Wonderful that you're joining me again. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to turn the camera around briefly so you can see that it's me and that I'm here. Hi. Oh, I'm very close there, aren't I? Oh, gosh. Hi. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've managed to get my phone on landscape. So hopefully those of you that are watching and you're projecting it onto the TV, then it should fill the whole screen, which is amazing. So I'm very proud of myself because I'm not very good with technology. Sorry, the angle there is so not very nice, but never mind. It's not about me, is it? Let's get cracking with the lesson. I'm going to turn you back round. So have a think. Look at that image there, okay? And maybe jot some ideas down in the chat so I can see your thought process. What are you thinking about that image? Yes, it works landscape. That's fantastic. Okay. Does that image make you feel anything? And does it make you question? Have you got any questions about that image? Stephanie, amazing. You've given me the definition of what we're looking at today. Bystander behaviour, brilliant. Just give it another minute or so. What are the people thinking in that image? How are they behaving? As my daughter said before, she said, people are too engrossed on the phone to worry about what's happening with the man on the floor. Yeah, the person in the middle does look tired, you're right. They're having a little nap in the middle of the day. Why does nobody seem bothered by that? Is that unusual? Is that something that happens usually when you're in the street? Maybe the person's in distress. I'm guessing you're talking about the person in the middle there on the floor. Yeah. Okay. I am going to move on. Yeah, so they're on the phone. You know, is this in the middle of the day or is it at night time? We're not sure. Okay, let's move on. So we're going to look at what's called the bystander effect, and it links in with what we were doing last session, those of you that joined me last week, when we looked at conformity. And this in psychology is the idea that individuals, so people, are less likely to help someone in need when others are present. The greater the number of bystanders, so the more people there are around, the less likely any one of them is to help. Now, when you first think about that, that seems a little bit strange because we often hear the phrase safety in numbers, don't we? So we often think that we are safer when there's more people around. But according to this psychological concept, this idea, if we are in need and we need some help, maybe because of a medical emergency, that we're less likely to get help if there's more people around. So just have a think about why that might be. Maybe using some of your knowledge from last session. Why might that be? Oh, Kelly, is the person calling the ambulance? Maybe, absolutely. That could have been something in that first picture, couldn't it? So why might it be that the more people, the less likely anyone is to intervene and help? So I'm going to see if my daughter's got any ideas. Any ideas, darling?
Maybe because other people aren't helping it, they feel like they might feel like different.
Yeah, so maybe people don't help because others aren't.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be different from the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we looked at last lesson when we looked at compliance. People tend to go along with the behaviour of others because they don't want to stand out. Well done. Yeah, they will conform to not helping. Well done, Stephanie. Anything else? They don't want to look weird. They don't want to do something that other people aren't doing. They think someone else will help. Yes, Polly. Sometimes we don't want to be the one doing it because we're not sure it's the right thing to do. And we think somebody else has already called for help, Kelly. Well done. Like if you see somebody on the phone, you think, oh, they're calling the ambulance. Yeah, someone else will do it. And how would you behave in a situation if you was in? You know, if you was at the supermarket, let's say, or if you was in the middle of town and you saw somebody, you know, a little bit distressed, maybe having a medical emergency, maybe they were in danger or they were upset or needed some help, how would you behave? I think it's really important when we look at psychological concepts and ideas. It's all about human behaviour. And I think it's really important that we reflect on and we think about our own behaviour in these situations. Sometimes we behave in ways that we just don't think, we just act. And I think if we start to think about why we're doing certain things, then we can make some decisions based on our thoughts rather than automatic behaviour. So Nikki, you said you'd call the ambulance. Someone else said they weren't sure. I agree, actually. I don't know how I would behave. You might ask if you're okay. That's what my daughter's just said. Sarah, you would tell your mum. Yeah. And I think it's important to just consider this situation. I don't know how I would behave. And I think it would matter, or what's the word? What would influence my behaviour would be the circumstances. It depends on the situation. I would ask them if they're okay, but stand back in case there was a bad guy. Oh, interesting. You want to keep yourself safe, don't you? It's really important that. You'd ask if he needed food and I'd get him some, but I'd ask if for money, I won't give him money as he could buy alcohol. So you're thinking maybe about homeless people there. I think that's sometimes a worry, isn't it? That if you're helping somebody, do they really need it? Or are they going to take advantage of your kindness and of your help? And I think these are all valid reasons why people sometimes don't help, because we're unsure on the circumstances. So I think it's just really important that we reflect on that behaviour, really. So we're going to do a lot of reflection in this lesson. That's what it's all about. We're going to look briefly at this bystander effect and then do lots of reflection about our own behaviour. So here's just some ideas. It's a poster I found on the internet that the bystander effect, some of the reasons why people might not help. So I'm too busy right now. You know, we live in a world where everyone's busy on the go, getting to work, running around, doing lots of things. I'm sure they're fine. People are not really sure what's going on. So they just presume that they're okay. Maybe we question our own judgment of things, probably just drunk, maybe not considering that that person might actually be in danger or need some help. I don't want to get involved because they're unsure of the circumstances. So someone said there, I'm sure someone's already called 911. This is America. We would call 999 here in England. It's not my business. So why would people think that it's not your business to get involved? Someone else will deal with it. So all these things is what psychology is all about. Psychologists are really interested in understanding why people act the way that they do in given circumstances. And it's not as simple as lots of people, less help. There's lots and lots of factors that can influence that behaviour. Now, I just really briefly want to mention this lady. This lady was called Kitty. And in 1964, she was attacked in public. And it was in New York. And the newspaper article said 37 witnesses saw the crime and didn't do anything about it. And this created a lot of anger and a lot of upset within at the time in 1964, because why did nobody do anything about this attack of this young lady? And what psychologists realised that this was an opportunity to investigate this idea. Why did nobody intervene? Why did nobody stop to help this young lady who was being attacked? Now, unfortunately, the media article, the newspaper article, was actually a little bit misleading, which we could do a whole lesson on media and the psychology of media, like newspapers, the news, social media. But what they found was it was actually misleading. There wasn't 37 people who physically saw it. Some heard a little bit of commotion, but really didn't know what was going on. But nevertheless, this led to psychologists doing some experiments and being really interested in this phenomena, in this idea. Don't worry that you're late, Bean and Bud. Don't worry. You can always catch up with the first bit later, can't you, on the recording? Thank you for joining me. Oh, what's this message here? So let me just quickly look at this one. I would ask them... Oh, no, sorry. I'm just trying to find this message about being on a bus. Oh, I've lost it. After the session, I'll come back and have a look at that message. Oh, once I saw a drunk man on a bus and I knew he was drunk and unconscious as there was empty bottles. So I called 999 and saved him. Wow, what a thing to do. Amazing. Maybe they were too scared. You're absolutely right. We behave, if you heard of fight, flight or freeze, sometimes we freeze in a situation that we feel scared and we don't know how to behave. Excellent. Lots of fantastic ideas here. Well done. Okay, so these two psychologists, you can see there, in 1968, decided to investigate this phenomena, this idea. And what they did is they created a controlled experiment. This is something that comes up quite a lot in psychology, where they create a situation and see how people behave. A bit like the study that we talked about where there was smoke coming from underneath the door, where with this one, they had participants, so people that were in the study that didn't know that they were going to be investigating bystander behaviour. They thought they were investigating discussions of personal problems. So they were something called deception. So again, in psychology, we've got to look at ethical issues, or we can look at ethical issues of research. And if they were deceived, which means they were being lied to about the purpose of the study, they have to be told the true aims of the study at the end, because we don't want to be lying to people, because it's not very nice, that, is it? However, in this study, they chose to deceive them and say that they were going to discuss personal problems with other participants via a speaker system. And they were sat individually in a booth. And what they actually were doing is they were actually listening to some recordings of people. And during those few discussions that were happening, a confederate, remember, if you can remember from last week what a confederate was, that is an actor within the investigation, suffers a seizure. So obviously it was a fake seizure. It wasn't true. It wasn't real. But the real participant didn't know that. And what they found was, well, what they were interested in looking at was how many people asked for help. How long did it take for the participant to ask for help or attempted to help the victim? Now, one thing in psychological research, I'll come back to that in a minute, is when they study a phenomena and they collect data, they have to analyse that data and do some maths. So if you choose to do psychology, as you go older and you do GCSE psychology A-level or even go on to do a degree and do your own investigations, you have to analyse the results and do some maths. So you have to draw diagrams, bar charts, scatter graphs, things that you might have learned while you've been studying some of your maths. Maybe you've been following Joyful Maths with Ruth. I know she's been doing some statistics and been doing bar charts and things. So here's your opportunity to apply that knowledge if you can. If you struggle with this, please don't worry because I'm going to explain it. But they created this, what's called a bar chart. Okay, along the bottom is the number of bystanders. So what they did is they increased the amount of people that the participant was talking to over the speaker. Along the y-axis up there to the sky, we've got the percentage of participants who attempted to help the victim. So as you can see here, here is the conclusion. As the number of bystanders increased, so as the more people that were there in the discussion, the percentage of individuals who attempted to help the victim decreased, it went down. So here we've got around about 90% helped with one other person there. And here we've got about 30% helping with 6 people there. And this shows and demonstrates that idea, the more people there are, the less likely people are to help. They also analysed the length of time it took for participants to attempt to help. So you can see, again, sorry, I've not put the x-axis label. You would get marked down that for in the exam. You would lose a mark. Oh dear. This is the number of bystanders. So the number of those confederates, those actors in the experiment. And here, the number of seconds it took for them to help. So again, you can see the more participants, the more confederates, the longer it took for them to help. Okay, so we've looked at a real life case study, Kitty. We've looked at a lab experiment. Both of those situations have been where somebody needed medical attention. A medical emergency. What I'd like you to do now is think of any other examples of when this bystander effect might occur, but not a medical emergency. So have a think. When might people not get involved in a situation, but it's not a medical emergency? Have a think. Can you think of anything?
No.
No? Bit of a tricky one, that.
Maybe someone needed help carrying some food from the shop.
Oh, really, really good. So you see somebody struggling with all the food shopping,
Yeah.
and nobody else around is helping. Really good, yeah.
Or anything, carrying anything.
Yeah, carrying anything. Yeah, really good. Well
That's
done.
heavy.
Anything that's heavy. Well done. Okay, during some kind of an attack, yeah. Stephanie, yeah. So it might not just be a medical emergency, it might be a crime. Okay, yeah, absolutely, well done. Bullying, Julie, well done. I'm going to look at that bullying behaviour. If you see somebody being bullied, do you sit back and watch? Do you sit back and not do anything? Well, some people might.
Maybe some people might be too scared to stand up to the bully.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good point. And the reason why people often are bystanders, and I think someone mentioned this before, is because they're scared to help or they're unsure. Yeah, really good. When you're with your friends and you fall and they don't help, absolutely. Maybe because they're too busy laughing at you, which isn't very good, but I'm very, very guilty of that. If my daughter makes a slips or something, I laugh. I check she's okay. I do check she's okay, but I do have a little giggle first. When you find a needy person, somebody who needs help, yeah, excellent. So you've touched on a few things that I'm going to look at here. So well done. Sometimes knowing they have been seen makes them stop. Yes, absolutely. I think you're right there. If you know that somebody's seen you there, you might then be more likely to stop because you're maybe thinking about how people are judging you, maybe. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So I prepared some ideas before. I don't know if that's very clear on the screen, but bullying behaviour can often include bystanders. So a bystander are bullies, really. And often it's difficult to think about that because I'm sure there's been situations where we've all been a bystander, where we haven't really intervened or said anything when we've seen an injustice or where we've seen something that we don't agree with, because maybe we're worried about the consequences. Absolutely. So just reflect on that. So obviously people who join in with bullying are bystanders. But if you laugh or cheer on the bully, which hopefully we don't do that because that's very, very unkind. But if you show support for the bully in any way, but I think the one that we're most likely to fall into, most people, is doing nothing. Really, if you do nothing in a situation, then you're a bystander. So you're not actively supporting the bully, but actually you're not standing up to that situation. And again, there'll be lots of reasons that we've mentioned: worried about the consequences, scared of what might happen to you. Okay. So bystanders can help to stop the bully if they object to what the bully is saying or doing, report the bully, or show support for the target, the person who's being bullied. Yes, my daughter's just got something to say.
You could, maybe someone got a friend to just help them so they're not feeling as scared. Or if you're at school, just go and tell a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so people who are at school could do that. But bullying doesn't just happen at school, does it? You know, and we're in home ed. We might not be experiencing that, but we still might experience it in other walks of life, and it can happen in the workplace as well. So I think, it's just good to recognise that and think about it. One thing that I was thinking about, and I did actually see a real life case study of something that I thought was quite disturbing that I didn't want to share, but social media and the internet is really creating a platform where bystanders can be really present. If you read something or see a racist comment or a homophobic comment or something that you just don't agree with that's quite negative, if you do nothing and you don't report it or you don't say something, then really you're a bystander. That's what bystander means. That is the definition of a bystander. And there has been some circumstances where this has happened on social media. So again, just reflecting and thinking about our usage of the internet and making sure that we're using it in a pro-social way, which means good for people. Pro-social is like helping behaviour, rather than negative, and supporting something which might be an injustice or a negative comment or event. So like I mentioned before, now this is less serious than the thing we've been talking about, very serious things there. This is less serious, but again, something that we might all come across at some point in our life is avoiding speaking up and voicing concerns or ideas or opinions relating to something that you're involved in. Now, this is just focused at work, but if you're in a group situation and you're doing a project, or you're planning or organising an event or something like that, and everybody else has opinions and you disagree, or you've got a really good opinion that you want to get across and you don't say anything, you're a bystander. And obviously that's less serious than being a bystander when somebody needs help or being bullied, but it still is part of that definition, if we extended the definition to different walks of life and different situations. So it's where I'm going with this is for us to reflect and think about, how can we maybe do the opposite? What is the opposite of a bystander? Now, I'll come back to this in a minute. The opposite, do you know what? Sorry, I'm going to pause what I was saying and I'll come back to that about what the opposite of a bystander is, because I forgot I was going to do a bit more psychology. So here, some more key terms for you, because I love key terminology and some psychological concepts. Those two psychologists who conducted that experiment earlier on that I talked about, they came up with three psychological reasons why people might not help in a situation where a person is distressed. Diffusion of responsibility, evaluation apprehension, and pluralistic ignorance. Very, very complicated vocabulary. Just going to quickly go through it. And if you wanted to do more research on this, you absolutely can. The main one is diffusion of responsibility. And I think this is the easiest one to consider and to understand. People may feel a shared sense of responsibility when in a larger group. So individuals may not take action because they feel less responsible when others are present. So it's not up to me. I think on one of those images, actually, one person said, didn't they, it's none of my business. And it's kind of like that. Well, I'm not just responsible. Everybody in this situation is responsible. So it kind of takes the pressure off you a little bit to get involved. So diffusion of responsibility, there's lots of other examples on the internet. If you just type it in Google, things will come up to do with psychology if you want to look at that a bit further. Another one is evaluation apprehension, and we mentioned this before. I think my daughter mentioned it. People may fear unfavourable judgment from others around them if they take action. So yeah, it's like, I'm worried what people will think of me if I do something, if I stand out from this crowd. So we evaluate what if, and we feel a bit apprehensive, a bit worried about that. And the other one, pluralistic ignorance, is a mistaken belief that others in the group think differently from how they do. So it's kind of misreading the group situation and kind of just going along with it. So what can we learn from this that we can apply to our own behaviour? And I kind of touched upon this before. So just have a think. What's the point of all this research? Why do psychologists study these phenomena? Well, they do it so that we can implement things, we can put things in place in society to make the world a better place, if you will, and to make us live more healthy, more happy, more fulfilling lives. So how can we apply this knowledge to our own behaviour? Has anyone got any ideas? Has anyone got any ideas? Standing out for people more often? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to recognise what someone said earlier on about safety. We have to make sure we are safe and never put yourselves in a situation where you are sacrificing your own safety for somebody else. absolutely, in this situation. How can we stand out for people more often? What can we do? Can you think of any ideas? Not sure. So just reflect on what we can do to maybe reduce bystander effect. I'm going to move on, guys, just because I'm conscious of time. So we can make conscious decisions based on our awareness of how these social influences might affect our behaviour. Let me break that down. If we have an understanding of how other people can influence our behaviour, once we know that, we can start to think and process how we are affected by others. Because unless we're aware of it, we don't know. We don't know when we're not aware. So once we're aware of this phenomena, we can start analysing and reflecting on our own behaviour when we're in a group, and not just going along with the group because we're fearful of misjudgment or because we don't feel responsible. It's about thinking, what's happening? How are other people influencing my behaviour? And what can I do because of this? And it's just making what's called an informed decision, a decision based on what we know. Okay? So not caring what other people think, I think there's an element to that, isn't there? And I think we're all guilty about worrying what other people think of us. Yeah, and I think sometimes that does serve us. It does serve us to care what people think about us in some situations. But possibly that's for you to make a decision of whether you think in these situations, whether we stand up and we act independently or whether we do what others are doing. I don't know what my computer's doing there. It's like it's got a heartbeat. It's trying to focus, isn't it? Right. So a bystander passively watches unfair events unfold without intervening, without getting involved. Now, we could be an upstander, and this is a new thing that I've never heard of before. When I was doing a little bit of research for this lesson, I came across this idea of being an upstander. There's lots of things on Twinkle, mainly linked to bullying behaviour, but there's lots of things about being an upstander. This is where you take proactive steps to support fairness, inclusion, and respect. So it's about standing up for what we think is fair, about inclusion, making everybody feel included and respected. So let's try and be an upstander wherever possible. And I saw this quote by Albert Einstein, and I thought this was interesting. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. So Albert Einstein, famous for his work within the science field. And I think this was a good quote to get us to just think about if we watch on when we see injustices and when we see bad things happen, then the world will be destroyed. I think that's quite a serious thing, isn't it, really?
Well, the world might not destroy.
No, I don't think the world would be destroyed. But it's this idea that if we want a happy world, we all need to stand up for what we think is right. And we need to not just go along with things that we think is unfair. And by saying nothing and doing nothing, you are a bystander. Okay. So Margaret Mead was an anthropologist who said this quote. Let's have a look. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So what do you think that quote means? I'm going to stay quiet and you can have a read of it again. Any ideas what that means, darling? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens, so a citizen is people within society, can change the world? Not sure. Anyone, any ideas? And then also, can you think of any examples of this that you know about or have seen? Okay. So if we have a look at this, we break it down. This basically means a small group of individuals can have a big effect. It's like steering a huge ship, yeah. So if you are thoughtful and committed to changing the world and to making the world a better place, we can. You just need to stand up for what you believe is right, what you believe is fair. Matilda, well done. The suffragettes, that is on my next slide. The suffragettes, for those that are not sure, can you remember who the suffragettes are? Something about women. We have talked about this before. What did they stand up for?
The rights of women.
Yeah, and what did they want to do? Do you remember? Women wanted to
be equal with men.
Be equal with men, good. And it was women's right to vote at the time. Remember, they weren't allowed to vote who was running the country. Well done. So the suffragettes stood up. A small group of women stood up for the rights of women. And that really went against the majority of people.
There was a lady called it, and it was a statue in Manchester.
Yes, Emily Pankhurst. There's a statue in Manchester. Absolutely, we've been to see that, haven't we? Got pictures by it. So yeah, lots of the votes for women, well done. And somebody said there, lots of people have knitted blankets for people for Ukraine. That's amazing. What good we can do when we come together as a group. That's fantastic. Rosa Parks, excellent.
Yeah.
Can you remember Rosa Parks?
Yeah.
What did she do?
She stand up for black women.
Yeah, she actually stood up for the rights of black people. Yeah. And what didn't she do on the bus?
She didn't stand up.
She didn't stand up. Yeah, well done. She stayed sat down.
Why?
I know, we can't understand that now, can we? But at the time, yeah, Winston Churchill. Lots of different things. So I just chose two. I chose votes for women. And I also chose Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if any of you know Colin Kaepernick. He was, I don't know what's going on with my phone. He was somebody who took the knee during the national anthem, and this was to raise awareness for the rights of black people. That's quite a recent one. Can't quote the date, to be honest. But lots of things where people stand up for injustices and they be an upstander rather than a bystander. Now, I'm not suggesting we do anything that makes us unsafe, because the suffragettes did do some very extreme things where they went on hunger strikes. Some of them ended up in jail, things like they were very, very extreme circumstances. But we can just do a small thing
to make a big thing.
To make a big difference. And you might have heard of the domino effect. The domino effect. Oh, what's going on with my phone? There we go. The domino effect is where if we make a small change, more and more people will pick up the pace. And in psychology, we call it the snowball effect, actually. And the snowball effect, I say we call it the snowball effect like I'm some kind of psychologist. I'm not. I just know some psychology stuff and teach it. The snowball effect, imagine if you pick up some snow and you roll it down a hill. the snowball will pick up a little bit of snow to start off with, and as it goes down the hill, the pace will pick up, more momentum, and then that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then before you know it, that small group of people have collected people along the way, and then that small group becomes a big group, where a big group make a change. So yes, Stephanie, you've literally written what I've just said, like a snowball rolling down a hill. Yes.
A mountain.
Down a mountain, yeah. Okay, let's have a look. So, final thoughts. Conformity can be positive or negative, and we looked at that last week, didn't we? You know, it does serve a purpose going along with the group, because we need to do that, to fit into society and to have socialization. But it's really important to be aware of the negative impact that conformity can have. And this is a good example of that bystander behaviour. So just be aware of it, reflect on your own conformity, and always stay safe. That is a super important final thought there. Please make sure you stay safe, and don't do anything that's going to put you in any danger. So we've looked at so many psychological key terms today. One that I've not mentioned, that I forgot to mention, was an ambiguous situation. We did look at this briefly last time. The bystander effect is more likely to happen in a situation that we're unclear on what is happening. So ambiguous means we're unsure or it's unclear. We've got the bystander effect. We've got ambiguous situation that can affect bystander. We've got the 3 explanations as to why people behave in this way. And then we've got upstander, which is the opposite of bystander. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do a follow-up task, you could maybe create a poster raising awareness of bystander behaviour, or maybe you could promote being an upstander, or you could do something completely different. That's just a suggestion. If there's anything that you want to maybe research that I've mentioned today, give me a comment, give me a little message, and I can point you in the right direction. If you're unsure, please let me know how you found this session, as always. I thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to put this on YouTube, my first one on YouTube. Now it's in landscape. So you'll be able to catch up or watch it again on there if you really, really want to. A little bit of a note, next week is half term here in Manchester, so I will not be doing a live next week, but I will the week after. So please just have a look for that, and join me in 2 weeks' time. So as always, thank you so much, and I will leave my email address there if you've got any comments, any messages. If you do a poster, please send it to me. Send me a picture, because I would love to see what you get up to. Thank you so much. Take care. You're very welcome, Bean and Bud. You're welcome, Sarah. You're welcome, Nikki. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You're welcome. Thank you, Joanna. You're welcome. Bye, Mia and Noah. Bye.